Hey everyone, my name is Brian Howard. I'm a Calgary realtor who has sold an average of a house a week since moving to this great city in 2003. And this is Calgary Living. I'm interviewing Calgary's top performers as it relates to living and lifestyle in our great city. Some of the podcasts will be real estate specific, but most will be about life in Calgary and why we choose to live here or why you should visit. Thanks for tuning in. On today's podcast, I had the good fortune of interviewing Kelly Lynch. Kelly's a certified strength and neuroscience coach with a focus on stress and emotions. It was really great to have a short conversation with Kelly. What's interesting about how I met Kelly, on Shirley and our 25th wedding anniversary 2 years ago, we went to the Nordic Spa, like Can't Ask This Nordic Spa, and we were, enjoying the waters of the Nordic Spa where we met another couple, and the couple somehow was having a conversation about their experience with Kelly Lynch. And Shirley got curious and started to ask about the work of Kelly. Shirley then sought her out, and that's how we met Kelly. Shirley and Kelly have done workshops at the Bell Music Center on the brain and music, and operating, as Kelly talked about, above and below the line, and how music and thoughts can help process that. This was a fun conversation with Kelly about her time in Calgary since 1998, where she lives, her real estate decisions, and what she's up to these days. I hope you enjoy this interview with Kelly as much as I enjoyed spending time with her. Well, here I am with Kelly Lynch. Welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. This is really cool. I'm excited.
It's great to have you. Been fun getting to know you. I guess it hasn't been quite now. It's been probably a year since you and I first met.
Yeah, I believe it's just a year.
Give the audience a snapshot of what you're doing currently. Tell us what's going on with you, Kelly.
I am coming up to 22 years here in Calgary. I'm originally from Ottawa. Today was a big day for me because we are here in Golden, BC, and we are in the mountains, and we were out in spectacular nature today. And I had a moment where I was like, I'm home. I feel really good out here in the mountains. I came from Ottawa 22 years ago, and sometimes I itch to move and explore. But today I had this moment of like, I really like Western Canada. Really love it here. I have a private practice in Calgary. I am a leadership coach. I have a specialty in neuroscience. And with that neuroscience piece, I focus on stress and emotions. So I've really worked or focused my studies in the area of how stress affects the mind and the body. Today was a big moment when all of my stress melted away and I was in a great place with you guys and my son. So I live here with my son. He's 12 years old. And
Yep. And you and my wife, Shirley, have done presentations together at the National Bell Music Center on the brain and music.
yes,
And so it's probably the last couple of years, you and Shirley have been more sort of working a little bit together and studying the brain. At this point, you are a certified strength and neuroscience coach with a focus on stress and emotions. So you must be fairly busy these days in Calgary with our downturn, that's been going on for a couple of years, our boom bust cycle here in Calgary. Then what most strikes you about living in Calgary?
It's kind of like you've touched on a piece of it. I think it's been the cycles. Calgary has a very unique story around its core oil and gas sector. We have tales, stories, and I am part of those stories, even not being native to Calgary, but having lived through it. So I love hearing the stories. I love hearing people talk about resilience. I'm also someone who's fascinated when, people do get into those rough spots and how they recover. I worked for Imperial Oil, my last corporate gig, until I
decided to go the corporate life of Calgary and go explore this more, strength building neuroscience coaching business. When did that happen?
2011. Oh, that's been a while. Yeah, 2011. I had an amazing career. I loved my job. There were some pain points. The rat race was getting to me. My son was very young. I was dropping him off at school. Barely saw him. I was picking him up, rushing home, making dinner, giving him a bath, putting him to bed, and then getting back on my laptop and working till whatever hour of the night and getting up and doing it all over again. I can admit I took on a lot. I also loved the work. I felt like I was succeeding in a certain way. The optics of my success was like, Kelly's doing well. I was deriving satisfaction in some areas, but I was starting to burn out. It was my wake-up call, not so much for balance, but deep reflection on what you really want.
That was 2011. I was noticing today, I visited your website. Beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you.
So getting into this business on neuroscience, stress and emotions, do clients come flocking to you? How's your business work these days?
The classic word of mouth. I studied with the Coaches Training Institute in California, the pioneers of coaching, the best school to become a certified coach. I studied leadership development with them, an intensive one-year program. I started meeting people, making friends in the US and making business connections. And that's some of the work I do in Wyoming when I take people out into nature for 5 days for those retreats. Word started spreading and I started getting clients that way.
Great. Okay.
It's been primarily word of mouth. I've been very lucky. And I volunteer for the UN. So I have clients all over, every time zone, every corner of the earth. One of my main focuses right now is how I really do want to work more locally. I really want to get back into the local community.
Right. So it sounds right now your business
Very
is quite
international.
international.
It's very
And you're
international.
maybe interested in bringing it more local.
I want to
Interesting.
bring it local now.
It seems to me like Calgary needs you.
Yeah. Enough to do.
You've been here 22 years. You moved to
Yes.
Calgary in 1998. What brought you to Calgary?
My husband was finishing his studies in chemical engineering. He started applying for jobs, and the software engineering firm needed chemical engineers proficient at developing software. So he landed a job quickly. I took the leap to move out with him.
And knowing what I know about Calgary and history and real estate and cycles, it was 1998. We started to see an increase in real estate, but there wasn't a boom happening. When you were coming in 1998, were there more newcomers coming to Calgary?
It was
People were
huge.
moving to Calgary at that time.
I'll never forget that time. We drove out from Ontario and we were searching for, we just wanted to find a place to rent to start off, just at a university. And we could not, the vacancy rate was zero. Like there was nothing available at that time. So the level of panic that was kicking in and the product that we did see was really just not something we, wanted to get into. We finally landed something and it was in Bankview.
Oh.
We have been in that part of ever since for 22 years.
Most people in Calgary will either live in the north or live in the south. And once they're there, there's not really much crossing that Bow River for a place to live. And would you share that? Yeah.
So yeah, we lucked into this, cute little 2-bedroom apartment and we were there for a few years until
Made the leap to purchase. Let's get right into that.
we bought our first property in the first half of 2004. Our first home. It was a hot debate between my husband at the time.
Who's an engineer, the analytical brain.
He is hardcore. Give me the data, give me the facts, show me the numbers. Here's what I know to be true in this moment. We are buying at the top of the market and we're going to be in big trouble.
He was like, no, we're not buying because it's the top of the market and we're going to be in big trouble.
I have to tell you, I was searching for our first home by myself because he was just like, we can't do this. We would be one of those people that would be like part of the news headlines. Like these people have, little value and a high mortgage. And so I got in my car and I started, driving around after I had searched online. I started looking at all these properties and I found this really unique property in Killarney. I worked hard to sell this to my husband at the time. This was based on intuition, the level of construction, attention to detail, and beauty. I finally dragged him to see this property, and it took a while to convince him, but he really could see that this is a well-built home. Like, this had lasting value. But until that first offer was made, we had a lot of hot conversations.
Interesting. So you were doing it sounds like just not a ton of research. You drove around. Is the first house that you fell in love with, you finally get him to it, and then you guys actually eventually buy that house? Is that what happened?
I looked at a couple purely off instinct. He was the left brain, I was the right brain. We ended up making an offer, but I think maybe I looked at 3 properties and I knew right away.
Isn't that great? Interesting. Shirley and I, that's how we buy property too. We can often know from the outside before we ever go in if we're going to buy it.
Yeah.
And the house that we're in now, I was pretty sure we were buying it before either of us got inside.
Yeah.
Which is funny. Oh, tell me, what is it that you love most about Calgary?
Coming from a government town and coming when 1998, I was surrounded by, I just noticed this immense energy and so many young people. There was an energy that was so palpable, and we were meeting so many people our age, built a strong network of friends. We love to go out. We love 17th Avenue. I have a lot of nostalgic, feelings around 17th Avenue 20 years ago. My favorite spots to buy wine, eat, dine, buy baguettes. It was a really cool, hip street. It's changed over the years.
Do you remember 2004, the year of the Flames? Did they win? Or the Red Mile? That was our first year in Calgary.
I remember that clearly.
This is the year you bought your house on 17th.
It was just before we bought, but we were in Bankview. People were walking down the street celebrating.
Did we get the cup that year?
No, game off. We were celebrating a streak.
What are some things you don't like about Calgary?
The first thing that came to mind was architecture. I'm challenged by some of the product that's being built, commercial and residential. That gets to me. Some of the buildings and stuff that's come down, I was pretty shocked at the quality and caliber. When you build something, you should build with intention around design. That's very important to me, actually. Design and aesthetics is very, very important. And that's what I feel is lacking. We're a hopeful city, but one of the things that gets to me is a bit of the storytelling and the hook and the rhetoric. I understand when people are losing their jobs. So many are affected. The ripple effect is massive. And you wait for But I see those moments as opportunities. When you're in it, it's hard to dig deep for hope. You're afraid your credit will be affected, or you'll lose your home, you've lost your job. But once we move through those challenges, I think we need to surround ourselves with people who are going to help us tell a news.
Tell me a little bit your interest in real estate. You bought your first, it sounds like maybe this is your only home that you've ever bought, 2004.
Yeah.
And you sold it, was it a year ago?
I sold it a year ago, and that was another fascinating moment. I think those big moments we always remember. But that was the matrimonial home in my marriage. The big decision to put the for sale sign up when my son was very attached, a lot of emotion tied to that. And a lot there for him and a lot there for me. I knew it was time to sell. Again, that was my intuition. My intuition was signaling me, this is not going to be an easy move. You have to pack up a lot of memories and you have to sell this place.
And then you choose to rent instead of buying?
Yeah.
And what was that? How come, or why rent versus buy on that sale? And I'm also curious, you put the house up for sale without a place to live, or do you already have a rental picked out?
That's a great question. I have high levels of trust, self-trust, and trust that it's going to work out. And it's not usually blind. It's really driven by some internal force. I sold my house, decided to rent, found an amazing property in Calgary. There's part of me that is in this space now of what's next? And so I really wanted to leave myself in that like flexible space.
Mm.
What's next for me? Well, I continue to live here for the next 5 years, 10 years. I love adventure and I have a value around adventure. And so I'm feeling this thing inside of me that's like calling me, like, maybe you'll move in 5 years, maybe in 2 years. It was stressful to sell that home. I didn't want to carry that burden. I have a value of freedom.
Right.
I just want to go.
You sold that house in 2019?
So we sold that in July.
Less than a year ago, right?
It was a year this July, a year and a half.
It wasn't a great market then.
It wasn't great.
What, okay, fairly quickly, or
It took a while. I would say 6 to 8 months.
finally got an offer, and is that when you started looking for a rental?
No, we were homeless for a while.
You were homeless for a while.
Yeah, and I loved it.
You
I loved it. And my son didn't. And he's
I can't imagine that he would like it.
knowing, right? And he's like, Mom, we're homeless. I'm like, no, we're not. We're going to go here. We're going to stay there. We're going to go into Ontario, visit our family, and then we'll come back. We came back and it was close to school starting again, close to September. I'm like, I got to find a place to live. And I found
Great spot.
I found like the best home. I credit that to this value of trust. And like, let's go have fun this summer. Enjoy time with the family and hang out, and I'll find a home.
Wow. You're brave. That's good, Anthony. You know, a lot that sticks a lot of people. It's like, where do I go? Where do I put my furniture?
I know. And so, you know what I did? I rented a storage space.
Was that easy for you to have nothing for a while? It was. It sounds like it was.
It was a really cool experience for me.
How about the boom bust economy of Calgary? How do you cope with it? Save for a rainy day. How does it affect your mindset? Moving here in 1998, you've seen slow, steady rise till 2004 or 5. And then we've seen the boom of 6 and 7, and how we were all feeling very smart and wealthy at the time, at least my network. And then the crash of fall of 2008, recession times through 9, 10, 11, 12, things start to pick up. 13 and 14, our last highs. It's been a while since we've had a good high in Calgary. Can you talk about your experience with our boom bust cycle?
I noticed we're storytellers here in Calgary and the province as a whole. We really love to reminisce. We all tell the same story. I remember telling people when I worked for Direct Energy deregulation and how we couldn't acquire enough real estate fast enough. We couldn't build out spaces fast enough downtown. I was responsible. We had people sitting in hallways, 4 or 5 people to an office. The server rooms weren't big enough. We couldn't keep up. And expense accounts were just, no cap on expense accounts. And those are stories we'll share. Now we're in a new cycle, a new story, a very different story. I believe this cycle is so different because of where we are globally.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like it, cycles, we always move through cycles, but it feels like the terrain is so different, especially politically, economically, and that global influence. So I think there's a new tale to be told. I get excited in moments of busts because I am an advocate for people. I'm like, okay, so now what? What is your greatest dream? What are you going to do now? What did you always want to do? What have you been putting aside because you were comfortable? And that's an illusion. And the people who lose their jobs, you think that it's there tomorrow. I've had firsthand experiences with friends who walked into work and were walked out. Then it's like, then what? I also feel it's like uncertainty all around us, locally, nationally, and internationally. So there's that thread that's keeping us all in this place of fear.
How do you cope with it? A friend or a colleague or associate? How do you help others with that?
I think it's like those conversations Shirley and I touch on. It's really the nature of my work, finding out It's kind of going back to, what do you really value?
Mhm.
What is it that you want for yourself and your family? What are your highest dreams and aspirations? Where do you really get scared, where you're paralyzed and you see no way out? Those are the conversations I have with people. And it really is about, finding out who you are and where you're going to go next and what are the next tough decisions that have to be made. People are selling their homes and they're looking to what to do next, and maybe it's not in their field anymore.
So it's actually interesting. I mean, it's these cycles that we had, or are going through and have. It actually gives people opportunity to look like what is next, right? So there's a certain amount of excitement with the bus that we're in right now.
I think it's catalytic. It can really activate us. I've had pivotal moments where I'm like, wow, that happened. I was employed by companies, part of mergers and acquisitions, and mergers are not smooth. They call it a merger, but it's an acquisition. There's a duplicate, you know, a duplicate roles through this whole organization, and people have to leave and get laid off. I was always excited about that.
Right.
And I still do. Even 20 years later, I'm like, oh my goodness, now what?
You're an adventure girl.
Yeah.
Tell me, Kelly, why or why not are you staying in Calgary?
Right now, I'm staying in Calgary for my son. He loves his school, the Waldorf school. He's really connected to his friends. I feel we're sticking it out here for a few more years. I enjoy it here. When my son is a certain age, I'll head out.
Interesting. And on that note, you've done a lot of your coaching and you've done a lot of your certifications and training. It sounds like in the U.S.
Yeah.
Now, I find I travel to the U.S. for real estate workshops and have been because my
Yes.
key coach is out of the U.S. and been doing that since 2006. I speak with realtors from all over. It seems Americans move a lot. For a whole family to live in the same state seems unusual in my experience. Whereas for me as a Canadian, especially from Prince Edward Island, we don't do that. I spent the past week in California at a real estate workshop. I'm flying back to Calgary. It's minus 30. Why do we live here? Do you have any thoughts on why, as Canadians, we stay here and why Americans move with more ease than is that something that you've noticed?
Yes. I noticed it right away. I have so many friends in the US. I hear this over and over from friends who are like, I live in DC and I'm about to move to California.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. In my head, I'm thinking, well, that's interesting. That's a decent move. I hear it over and over and over again. I haven't asked my friends, I should ask them, but we can look at values individually and collectively. So I also think that the Americans, for some reason, there is this sense of freedom of movement, and it's easy for them. They're moving across the nation.
And changing houses. So much
Yes,
media
as well. So they're moving and changing often. All of my friends, they make it look easy. Here, we're more rooted, I feel.
I feel that too. Why?
I wonder what that is.
Maybe we'll save that for another episode. What advice would you give your younger self?
It would be something around perfectionism because that's my hook. So it would be like, let go. It's all good. It's perfectly imperfect.
I suspect you're doing exactly what you wanted to be doing, but let me ask, what profession other than your own, which I assume is coaching and neuroscience and the brain and, focusing with stress and emotions, but if there was another profession, I mean, you've met a lot of interesting people in your current work, in your previous work, but if there was another profession other than something you're already doing, what would it be? Maybe a rock star.
Yeah. Two things come to mind. I'm very lucky. Lucky maybe is not the right word.
You've worked hard to be
I've
where
worked
you are.
hard. I followed my intuition, focused, and I worked extremely hard. My mother used to say I was lucky. I'm like, it's not luck. She's like, you're Irish. It's the luck of the Irish. I'm like, it's not.
The harder I work, the luckier I get.
Exactly. Two things come to mind. So I travel to Wyoming every year to lead these amazing retreats in nature for 5 days to teach people about their strengths and the brain and to learn from Mother Nature herself. And one job that I am fascinated by is these wranglers.
Oh,
These wranglers, we run these retreats on a dude ranch on horseback. And we've moved cattle. Well, we move cattle. That's one of the exercises we do.
fun.
And I have to say, I feel so at home and I love that life. I just love the Western lifestyle. Some kind of cowgirl and wrangler. I've always wanted to be a surgeon.
Yeah.
I always want, so I, as a young, girl, as a young woman in my early 20s, and I used to find these shows on TV. I don't know where they came from, but I would watch surgery. And not the drama series, but this is actual surgery late at night. I would watch doctors cutting people open. I just think I would love to do that.
And why do you go down that path? Why do you study science? Or maybe you did. What did you study?
I studied psychology and law, and I loved both. The psychology is very fitting for me
Right.
because I study the mind and the brain and, Jungian psychology and archetypes. So, yeah, it's
Interesting. Kelly, how can people find you? What's the best way to reach out?
go to my website. They can get all of my information. My website is kellylynch.com.
Kelly.
Yeah.
Lynch, LYNCH.com. Are you on Insta? Can we follow you on Instagram?
I'm about to enter the world of Insta. I'm kind of slow on the uptake there, but I'm going to get into it.
Neat.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll try and include one of our pictures from this weekend
Yeah.
for one of your first Instagram accounts.
I
Opening.
think it would be very fitting.
Okay, well, we'll include show notes. Kelly, thanks for being a guest today.
Thank you.
That just about wraps up today's podcast. I thank you for tuning in for today's episode with Kelly Lynch. If you have interest further in running down the path of, I guess, a little more self-exploration and learning your strengths, reach out to Kelly Lynch. I guess you can find her on kellylynch.com. If you know somebody who should be on this podcast or have questions regarding Calgary living, real estate, and lifestyle, please reach out. Find me on Insta at Calgary_living or at thehowardteam.com. Thanks for tuning in.